keep on saying this, bringing you this 50 summer stories of Pittsburgh tech with my friends at Comcast is one of these great experiences where I get to talk to a lot of new people, a lot of new folks that are doing great stuff. I also get to talk to some old friends of mine as well too, because they're kicking butt just as much as anybody else. And today is just that case, hanging out with Darrin Grove and John Beck from Truefit. And I think I've known you guys for, it's been maybe close to 2 decades off and on.
Yeah.
Some version or another, I think, like that.
It's I'm not really sure how I feel about falling into your old friends category.
Don't worry. If anyone's old around here, Darrin, it's me, man. With gray hair. And then poor JB over there. Oh, my God.
Yeah.
We're all falling apart, man. We're all falling apart. No, we are just old because we've been in Pittsburgh's tech sector for so long. And that's what I think is so cool is that, for almost 2 decades now, we've kind of been in this together in a certain sort of way. So I'm excited to put the spotlight on the work that you guys are up to these days. I know you guys, Truefit's always doing something new. And that to me is always exciting. I feel like you're this really cool leading edge of developing apps and things for folks that they're almost too far ahead of their time, dare I say sometimes. So I'm like, wow, you're thinking about that? Okay, yes, you are. So anyhow, I always like starting these things off. Just people get some background. So Darrin, let's start with you. You run the place over there at Truefit. What's your background? Tell us about Truefit. And then we'll go over to John over there and talk about what he does. And we're going to jump into some really cool projects. And of course, talk a little bit about the methodology that you guys use. Because I think that's really been your secret sauce at Truefit, has been your methodology, how you work with clients to develop these very beyond the edge solutions, as I think I've been calling them. So
yeah, thanks, Jonathan. Always appreciate a conversation with you, and really appreciate all that the PTC does, especially during this time, by the way. You guys have really stepped up and been a leader in the industry, and thank you for that.
Thanks for coming.
My background, I'm originally from Pittsburgh, so I've been in this town a long time. Love working in the innovation ecosystem of Pittsburgh, and always have. My background is software engineering, so I'm a nerd. I come at
You're
this.
a nerd at heart, Darrin. Come on.
I am absolutely a nerd at heart, and I come at this from kind of an engineering mindset. In the first many years at Truefit, I was an architect creating new software products, and that's really was the kind of inspiration for Truefit in the first place, and how I spent a lot of my time early on.
Well, what made you transition to be also like a leader, a CEO of a company as well too? Because that's a tough transition. Because like you said, you got the diehard techie in you that loves solving problems and writing code and finding solutions.
Absolutely, I still love it. After all these years.
Still at your core, but at the same time, you got a P&L statement you got to be watching there every single month.
Yeah. So that's a super interesting question. A really long story, maybe for another time. But we as Truefit was growing, what we realized, and I was the original founder. So as we were growing, as we were creating great software products, at some point we realized that in order for Truefit to really achieve its potential, I needed to stop coding and start learning how to build relationships and sell. Right. And so I did a major career pivot at about the 10-year mark. Truefit's 23-year-old company now.
You're 23 now. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I was saying decades. I knew it.
2 decades. Yeah, absolutely. That's why.
I know it's up.
So I did a kind of major career pivot there, and now it's been a blast to find people working on new opportunities. I get to have conversations like this all the time with founders and startups and people in large enterprise companies who are creating new products and new software products. And that's kind of one of the cool things about being at Truefit is we work with so many different size companies, from startups to enterprise companies. Work across so many different industries. So some of the stories we'll tell today, you'll get a flavor for the diversity of the work that we do, and also hopefully get a flavor of some of the challenges, some of the difficult problems that our teams are solving.
Okay.
So that's really a lot of fun for us.
I dig it. And so JV, you got some seriously deep roots in Pittsburgh's tech sector as well too. And I think it's been a while since you joined up with Truefit. To me, it seems like maybe it was a couple years ago, but I think it's been longer than that.
I know. It's been 7 years, almost 7.5. We're coming up on a decade. So
Remember that, Darrin, a decade, there's a special gift you got to get him at 10 years.
That is true.
You can start planning that right now, just saying.
Absolutely. Making a note here.
Yeah.
See, he's doing it. See, I got your back, JB. I got your back.
Jonathan, you and I go back, at the time I studied graphic design, way back, started my career as a graphic designer in Ohio and was in a couple different cities in Ohio, but I'm a Pittsburgh guy. I grew up in Mount Lebanon, came back to school, went to Carnegie Mellon, got involved that's really where I got introduced to product design and it's specifically digital product design. And at that time, it was around 2000. It was a time when we were moving, everybody was going nuts. The tech bubble was at its highest, move fast. And how do we expand beyond just, web applications? Mobile wasn't really a factor yet, but we were starting to get into devices and how, sort of the early roots of IoT development. And I was fortunate enough to be part of the original startup at Body Media, a company that quite well. And that's, I think, where we met, Jonathan, was probably around that time. So I got to lead a number of different design initiatives inside of Body Media, and we did some amazing things to sort of be there at the vanguard of wearable computing. And
you guys were doing wearable stuff back then for people who even knew what the heck it was.
Yeah, like we got to work with NASA and with the NFL and with the Army and Oprah. Not often that you get to do that range of stuff, but I left kind of in the early 2000s, and with some colleagues from Carnegie Mellon and Body Media, we started a consulting UX firm called GIST. We did that for about 12 years, and somewhere along the way, about the middle of that, Darrin and I met. And, Darrin has been very involved with the leadership community in Pittsburgh,
right?
And in sort of across the business domain, and then specifically in technology. We met, we connected, we had a lot of kind of shared values and a sort of shared take on, it's like the Reese's peanut butter cup. He had the chocolate, I had the peanut butter. How can we combine? At the time, GIST was doing all kinds of, super cool work, high-end research, product development, and design, but we didn't build. And that was getting to be frustrating. And we really started to feel that, wow, if we had the ability to build the products that we're designing, I think we would design in a very different way, was the underlying thought. And I got to a point where I shared that thought with Darrin, found a very receptive audience, and the conversation started, and it really made a lot of sense to the two of us. So in 2013, GIST and my team came into Truefit, and then what's been super exciting now after 7 years has really been able to a lot of those original hypotheses have really played out in ways that we wouldn't have expected, but the results have just been tremendous.
I feel like
integrated teams that like design and build.
Right. I just feel like when you guys came together, like all of a sudden it was like, like these two elements found each other, and you're able to just take on some of these projects that we're going to talk about in new and different ways. And I just find it amazing that it's been 7 years now. So in a couple more years, you're getting a special present from Darrin. I'm very excited about this.
Keep talking. I like that.
I know. I told you, JB, I got your back, man. I got your back. So Darrin, let's tell our listeners about like some of the methodology that you guys use at Truefit when it comes to developing apps. Because I think we need to set the stage on that just a little bit before we jump into some of these projects you're going to tell us about. Because I think that kind of makes it all kind of come together.
Yeah. So one of the things that's kind of really important to us, our vision, in fact, is that we want to be about building excellent teams, impactful software, and successful businesses because we want to be a catalyst for the common good in our region and across the country. So if you have those ingredients, excellent teams, impactful software, and successful businesses, you have to put a methodology together that makes sure that, it's not just a good idea, it's not just an idea that can be built, but that it's actually going to contribute to business success. So we kind of have a very holistic vision around making sure that the products that we work on are going to help companies be successful.
Right.
And so because of that, we tend to focus on the risk that's inherent in new product development right from the beginning. So when we meet people, they just come to us with an idea. Generally,
you become their therapist at that point.
Well,
you start talking them through the process, and they're like, "Oh crap, I don't want to do this."
Well, I would say, that's interesting. I wouldn't call us a therapist. I would say it's a nurturing process, and I think of us kind of as a guide to help you get from kind of where you are today, step by step, to a successful commercial product launch. And there's some tricky waters there. There's some dangerous waters there. And as you know, a lot of people,
especially a lot of people, technology that changes so quickly in this day and age, where like within 18 months, something that you're thinking about can become literally obsolete.
Yeah.
Right.
So we're really focused on the whole process. Our process is called Idea Launch. It's a process that we developed internally. It's step by step, as your guide, going from I have an idea to I want to launch a commercial product. And what we're paying attention to throughout that process is how do we reduce risk, build confidence, and increase the chances that this product is going to be successful when it hits the market.
Okay.
And we kind of break that down into kind of 3 parts. John, why don't you talk a little bit about what are those 3 parts?
Yeah, we get a lot of companies that come to us with some, super interesting ideas, but part of what we try to do, a lot of people come almost with a solution looking for a problem.
Yeah.
And
that's where therapy comes in. We got to tell somebody, wait a second.
Yeah, right. That there's a vision there for something cool that could be done either at a technical level or at a UX level, but and those often are really intriguing ideas. So what we try to do is help make sure that they are getting their ducks in a row before we go too far into or leaping into development. And it's an interesting tension because we are very much committed to agile, committed to build, measure, learn cycles and moving quickly, but at the same point trying to get a couple of the logical elements in place so that we can
do that inside this frame. We got some guideposts, so as you're doing that, you're not going to get off track.
Exactly. So helping companies first make sure that they really understand the problem, and we kind of break that down into a couple different levels, looking at it through a user lens of that's the number one issue of somebody's trying to do something and has a problem without your product. How well do you understand that current reality and what it is that they're trying to do and what they're trying to get at, what the ultimate objective is for them, because that's what's driving their behavior. And they're doing it in a context that if you don't understand, your chances for failure are only going to be greater. Like they're using other products alongside yours and have other responsibilities and limited attention. So trying to help them understand that scenario in terms of what the user's needs and context and what their current behaviors are, but also understanding what the technology is even capable of doing, which they often have kind of a limited understanding of. So we could very much help them understand what the possibilities are, but then put that all into a business context that, is this a viable business that can be supported both in terms of either the financials, if it's a for sale, product or service, which it often is, but in some cases where it's not, there's still, how is your organization going to use it to get to the objectives that they have, whether to save money or make more revenue or improve their overall competitive advantage. So we try and make sure that companies help line up, let the problem drive the solution. And then we bring the full weight of our teams with expertise in design, in user experience research, in software architecture, engineering, security, how are we going to host this content and set you up for success? How on the product management side, are we going to help you develop a long-term vision that, build these things first, and then these other things can logically come later? And that's a lot of, it's the Sherpa kind of model of, how we can help you through this process. If in the case of a lot of our clients, they haven't been through that before.
Yeah, that all makes sense. And it just seems like, I mean, obviously that's, I think, really been the secret to so much of your success is using that process, obviously, because it does guideposts up, creates the expectations. And I'm assuming sometimes along the way, it becomes apparent that maybe this isn't quite the viable product, or it becomes a whole other type of a thing based on your research and based on the sessions that you people. So yeah, it's such interesting stuff. And of course, this has created some pretty amazing projects. Let's dive into some of the cooler projects that you guys have kind of spun out in the past year. So Darrin, is there a favorite one you want to start off with that you think is pretty cool, that really represents kind of the best of what Truefit can do?
Well, there's so many, and we're excited to work with so many interesting clients, again, across multiple industries. A couple of things that we launched last year, which I think are really having an impact in the world. We worked with a local company to build an assessment and road mapping tool for cybersecurity that is now being launched globally. This organization locally has a global reach. And so large companies are using it to really assess their readiness for a cyber attack. And so we've seen this as a trend in our space, the threat of cyber attack and the need for cybersecurity. This is a product that's really helping companies be more mature when it comes to thinking about their security practices and their readiness for a cyber attack, and actually walks them through creating a plan for how to get from where they are today to where they want to be in terms of security and protection. It's been launched globally. We just are implementing it currently while we're working with our client to create a new release. We're on V2. We often work with clients not just to launch their initial product, but to launch new.
You stick with them throughout the entire thing. They know there's going to be further iterations as they go along, and of course the market changes so much, needs change so much that you got to be there because you're the original crafters of this anyhow. So you got to stick on there and keep it evolving, I guess, right?
Yeah, so that's fun for us. So when they sold the product to one of the largest companies in the world, international company, they came back to us and said, hey, we need to do these enhancements for this client. We put a release together, and that's launching in the next couple of months. So we're excited about that.
Oh, that's awesome, man. Very, very cool. What else are you guys cooking up over there?
So, John, you want to jump in?
Sure. Yeah. It's great. It's great fun. What they say, sharks, they thrive in, moving in the water all the time. And there's just such a diversity of problems to solve and interesting technologies to work with. One of my favorites, and a couple that we're working on now, and we've been kind of shepherding this product through the process pre-COVID to today, and it's been interesting to see how that has hit. But in one case, we're working with a major university around a student engagement platform that brings sort of the best of their seniors that are nearing graduation and career decisions, along with their alumni in those fields. And as we're working on that, how could we better engage? And we have a really neat technology and application that we're building for them, helping to guide that along as some of the world is, rapidly changing. The
Exactly. I was gonna ask you
tablecloth has
about
been
that.
pulled
Right.
out.
Yeah.
How's it going to work if there is no on-campus students next year, right?
Exactly. It's like, wait a second.
So, lots of research has gone into it. We've gotten to meet and interact with a lot of, seniors, with faculty, with alumni. It's been a really interesting, project. On the other side of the world, we're working with manufacturers or a manufacturer who is helping secure and monitor electrical substations in the United States, and
Good Lord.
helping them apply machine learning, computer vision, and lots of very complex information and image gathering to make their substations, and at a higher level, just sort of tying into that whole sort of meta issue about securing the power grid is fascinating. So really, a complete 180 from the university project.
Every day you come into work, then there's something different going on. So how do you get your head in the right set for security? Tomorrow it's going to be an online app to connect people. Hey, let's talk about the nation's power grid.
Yeah, right.
Pretty cool stuff, man. I mean, you're hitting the extremes here. I love it.
Yeah, you got to love to learn. That's absolutely a core job requirement, and keeps you young and keeps you, engaged as somebody. I've been doing this for, just in the product development side, I've been doing it for 25 years now. And that thrill never gets lost. You just love understanding and, tell me about your business and let's see how the sausage gets made, kind of thing. And where, helping them develop a vision of where things could actually go, and then giving them something that you could test. We're very big on prototyping. It's a storyboard, or it's a mock-up, or it's an early coded proof of concept. Give them something tangible that we can actually go put in front of potential users and learn from, and make smarter, sort of pivot, persist kind of, decisions along the way. So that's a big thrill in the process of what we do.
So you also have a diversity in not just the types of projects, but the types of clients you have. So I know, Darrin, like you guys have worked with everyone from startups to huge companies and everything in between. Is it kind of evenly distributed? Do you lean more towards one side or the other? What's your typical client mix like these days?
It's pretty diverse. So probably a third of the companies that we work with, Jonathan, are early stage startup companies working on their first idea. Probably a third of them are established software companies. We help people take a current product to the next level sometimes. So working on modernization, working on a next gen solution, helping them introduce new technology, helping their internal team adopt new technology and learn it. So that's probably a third. And another third is working with large enterprise companies who are being entrepreneurial internally.
Right.
One of the really cool things that the Schwartz Center at CMU is working on is this idea of corporate entrepreneurship. How can large companies really innovate and behave like startup companies internally? And so that's a super important initiative that's, again, Pittsburgh's providing leadership to nationally. And Sean's doing a great job with that. And so that's another profile of a company. As all companies know that they need to continue to invent. They need to continue to, and software is changing all the time. So the capabilities are evolving very quickly.
Yeah, no, I just find it amazing. Like I said, my head would be spinning on a pivot if I were working at Truefit every day, because it's just like different types of clients, different types of projects. So it's got to be just a ton of fun to be there. And at the end of the day, you have this portfolio of just like I said, leading edge projects. Got a few more minutes. Any other projects that you think are kind of cool that our listeners, our viewers need to know about?
I'll note two of them from, again, that launched last year.
Okay.
One, because I found them both to be really inspiring. Startup company here in Pittsburgh wanted to address the problem of how do we get energy companies who want to buy property rights, like mineral rights, connected with landowners. If you look at the way that process is done today, that process is really hard for energy companies, and it's also really opaque for landowners. So energy companies have to spend way too much time to find the land that they need or the mineral rights that they need. Landowners have no idea what their mineral rights are worth. So this local company is creating a platform that is essentially an exchange where energy companies can meet landowners and make really good deals on exchanging property rights. Fascinating. We worked with these guys from the earliest stage. We worked alongside them as they hired, as they built out their team, and now they're off and running. They're doing really, really good work.
That's amazing.
John, why don't you talk a little bit about the physical therapy product that we launched last year? Because that's pretty cool and exciting. And I think it gets to this kind of trend that we're seeing in the world of remote work and the world of the kind of new reality that we're living in with COVID. And we are seeing this trend across products that we're working on, that, you know, the new reality is having an impact on the way innovation happens. This was actually something that launched last year, but it does work directly into the new world. So, John?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, you know, one of the things that we find really interesting right now is, you know, we were at it, you know, in 2006 when the iPhone came out, and that in the whole introduction of like the app market and touchscreen devices and everything that followed was such a massive upheaval to the product development world. I mean, it took years, you know, for people to really sort of grasp what that meant. And in a very different way, kind of COVID and all the changes that are coming with that this year is, it's a much deeper issue than just, you know, the obvious, you know, personal health issues, you know, at risk, how it's changing work patterns and how people engage with their community and with each other and family life patterns. And so one, you know, we had been working we were working on a number of projects in this home healthcare kind of space. Approval systems for, you know, home health on the insurance side, on the device and sort of quality of care side. We had for a couple of years have been involved in the sort of early development of a home therapy platform that takes sensors, multiple sensors. So when somebody's either having maybe a knee replacement, hip or shoulder replacement, the changes in workers' comp insurance rules and changes in the industry are really putting a lot of pressure on the physical therapy market. I mean, they just don't have enough physical therapists to deal with everybody on this individual basis. So how can we make them more effective? And being able to treat and work with their patients in a different way, remotely, with smarter technology that they take home with them. So there is a period of training and there's certain sessions that they start you know, right at the hospital, even after having this, you know, replacement surgery. But then with a tablet and a sensor that and a internet connection, basically they're able to go home and build a smart sort of avatar-driven system that's able to read your movements with the sensors, visualize it for engagement, and in a very detailed way. It's not just counting reps, but it's actually showing you the right motion. They need to be the right reps, not just, you know, you moved your arm up and down.
You were being activated when you were doing reps and everything like that, huh?
Yeah, being able to guide them, being able to facilitate a two-way conversation between the therapist who can see, they're both looking at the avatar, they could see what the patient is doing or not doing, and guide them to the right outcome. And that is a scenario that we're seeing a lot of, in different industries, but, work from home care, more tools to sort of help you work in a new context, whether it's recovery or collaborate with a team or.
Absolutely. All the way around. Like that to me is just mesmerizing. Even cooler yet, this is all happening here in Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
Truefit. So that makes it just cool on so many levels. I'm just so glad we got to talk about some of this today. I really got to be able to go to truefit.io and check out your site because like you got lots of great information on there. And I think it goes to show you Pittsburgh's got some great companies. Truefit is one of them. So glad they got to tell like a sliver of your story today. It's like, oh my goodness, such cool stuff.
Yeah, we love being
Thank you,
part of,
Jonathan.
we love what's happening in the city and we love being part of it. We appreciate your role in what you guys do, what you personally do, Jonathan, and with the Tech Council,
Cool.
how to support that, lead it at the local level.
Absolutely. Like I said, for us, it's trying to get these great stories out like this. That's why I'm so pumped to be hanging out with Comcast to allow us to do this type of storytelling and get the word out that there's a lot of cool Truefits here in Pittsburgh. So Darrin and JB, thanks so much for being part of this today. You guys are the best. Keep innovating out there. I don't think that's gonna be a problem for you.
Thank you, Jonathan.
Yeah, thank you.